what remains today as we start off in the bottom right hand side, our blue Zerg from the Afrika Freaks. New team picking up a lot roster again. It's not a new team or an old team, but picking up a new roster. soO in the bottom right hand side. They also picked up Armani in stats, and I believe DRG on the team as well. So really nice to see those guys investing into some players. As we have got in the top left, recently disbanded Splice meant he was teamless, and well, wasn't teamless for long. The rumors before he left Splice were that he would join Triumphant Song Game, and those were confirmed recently. TY, our red turret, top left hand side. Let's jump into game number 1 of this best of 3. So setting up into this and getting this ready to go. I wasn't going to do any shoutouts during the games, guys, but this one just came in. It's the very start of a game. Can we just get a big round of love in the chat for the $100 donation from Montian? Like I said, really trying not to do too many shoutouts and stuff during games today, but that's a crazy donation. Thank you so much for your generosity, dude. He sent $100 yesterday as well, so get some love in the chat for that one, just because we're at the start of the game. Thought I'd point that out. Thank you so much, dude. I'll absolutely mention that again between maps as... For the moment, our expansion sets up, and TY will play it safe, scouting down to the bottom side of the map. TY and soO have played 3 times this year, and one of those times was at the IEM Katowice tournament in the group. TY then took down soO 2-1, but we've seen, I say this year, in 2019, that was obviously, I mean, what, 9 months or so ago now? That's a long time in StarCraft. A lot has changed since then. More recently, in June, TY won 5-4 in a show match, and that's it. That's like the only times these guys have really played each other this year. The rest, before then, was like February, so it's been a while. They first played against each other in the MLG Invitational in 2012. Like, that was one of the first times we saw the Casper players playing StarCraft 2 at an event. It was crazy. So to think those guys played all the way back in that. And after all this time, 8 years later, the map scores are so similar between them. 30-34. In favor of soO, 10-12 in matches in favor of soO. So soO generally has the edge over time, but you know, there was a time where soO was a lot more dominant and TY was considered a strong Terran player, but maybe not the top 3 Terran player he's considered to be in the last year or 2. So of course you can't sleep on soO, who IEM Katowice champion of 2019, trying to qualify to defend his title. Reaper back up, wanted to go up into the center, but decided to stick around here, gonna pick away at a Zergling, and if he can get the creep tumor, that's amazing. It's gonna be pretty close. I think he's gonna get it. Can't cancel that, obviously, nowadays. So that's a creep tumor kill early. It's a great start for TY. And look at this, it's a 2-1-1 opening. So TY opening a little bit funky. A little bit different to usual, switching things up. The last time I saw TY playing some TvZ, he was pretty committed to playing mech off the BCs. That was just a week ago in a Kung Fu Cup. This already 2-1-1, just, you know, it says bio. There's not going to be anything else other than that here. As we're going to be seeing the couple Marines on the way out. Again, the hatchery dropping down in the 3rd, and a Reaper grenade dropping as we do see some drones being popped around. This Queen going to get a Reaper too. Couple of Hellions setting up in the center, and just going to be seeing the starport going to be finishing in the main base in the next couple moments. So starport finishing, obviously that's going to jump onto the reactor. The entire point of this is looking for a nice quick 60 Marine timing. Now, look what soO's doing. 5 roaches. So playing a roach-based early game. How many of those is he going to build? He still has some gas and minerals, 41 drones, so looking pretty aggressive. There's 8 roaches now on the way out. With a 2-on-1 on the map, a roachling attack gets interesting because it kind of depends where the Marines are, but Marines with Stim are typically very good against these attacks because you get rid of the Lings quickly, and then you can overpower the roaches pretty quick too because of the Stim pack really helping you out. So yeah, that Stim pack coming into play right now. Marines pulling back in towards the natural, another Zergling moving around the back of the natural, so setting up as Marines will load into the medevacs against starport. will actually may move away. There's a siege tank already being made. The Hellions see the Roaches and Ravagers. The fact he made 2 Hellions is a bit different in the first place anyways, and because he's seen those units, he won't go across the map with the units. Yeah, the couple of Hellions are a little bit different. It's definitely just slightly off from what you'd usually expect here, but yeah, pretty fun as let's see another medevac, and this is more so as the 3rd CC starts. He'll maybe hit a bit of a marine tank timing eventually, depending on what he wants to bring across. With 1 medevac and 2 tanks, he could come across the map. We shall see. For the moment, those units from soO have backed away, realizing he's scouted, he's not going to do much. He's just gone up into a few more drones, starting to saturate a 3rd base, which comes in the forward position rather than the further back position here. See how that plays out for him, because again, typically that's a harder base to hold. The Terran likes to push up this ramp, use this low ground here to set up tanks, etc. to hit this 4th base. So taking that as a 3rd instead, as Marine's going to unload into the main. Remember, the Roach is not going to be super mobile here right away, as he's going to start going for the lair. He's not going to make a move in towards the Queen. A Ravager goes down. I mean, good pickoffs initially, gets a Roach too. Now just lifts and leaves. And then we'll finish morphing up, so... again, put some good damage onto that though. Put some pressure on, right? And as he comes in over this side, he knows this base is here, so he's just going to unload on the edge of creep, and he can kill a couple of creep tumors, and if he was paying attention, he should know there's an overlord here that's ripe for picking as well. There's also overlords elsewhere. You kill some of those overlords, he sets soO back a little bit. Yes, okay, soO is likely to not be supply blocked from this, but again, it's still overlords will have to rebuild at some point, and well, the Marines take a chance to get another Roach kill. They don't quite get the Ravager, but it does force some of the transfusions out. So, taking some of the energy off the Queens already. Going in from there as, again, 1-1 upgrades coming up. Combat Shield's about to complete. So just seeing the Marines and the Medevacs out over on the right side. Some of the Marines and the Medevacs out on the left. More of these units from TY continuing to head through the center of the map. And there's Zergling already nibbling its way through this Hellion here as well. That Zergling will go down. And again, Lingus just up the left-hand side, and TY, big push. So this is where it becomes very important to find a defense as soO. With the tanks, the Roach-based play is going to struggle a little bit. Because the tanks do great against the Roaches. That splash damage really valuable. The Marines here going to fight with the SCVs. So a few workers being picked off as the 3rd base is landing down in position. TY just scans ahead, sees what's there, and he says, yep, actually I don't want to fight that. Happy just cleaning out some creep and pulling back home. Waiting for those 1-1 upgrades to kick in, and then as the armory finishes, he can go to 2-2. But yeah, TY really happy to just play into a bit of a longer game here now. So he seems pretty happy with that. A few Zerglings from soO up to the top side, and an SCV or 2 going to come forwards and build up a couple of supply depots as well. Still this Roach Ravager army pressing forward. Zerglings again trying to go up the ramp, but the tank's pretty quick to respond. You know, depots raised. At this stage then, as the Terran will go into 2-2, we're going to slow the game down a little bit. We even see melee upgrades starting from the Zerg play. He's going to switch it in towards Lings and Banes, and Infestation put on the ground, move into that Hive Tech against this tank count. A Viper or 2 won't, you know, go wrong, or won't go amiss, and obviously Hive Tech in general, tier 3 units, are also going to be pretty handy to have along the way. TY is going to start dropping a bit, right? I mean, it is, you know, one of those compositions you can absolutely drop against. It is still going to be pretty Roach Ravager heavy for a while. So, while it is Roach Ravager heavy, it's immobile. It's not great at jumping between bases. So TY just going to try and take advantage of that. And he's moving out with a few more Marines into the center. Going to try and come test the Watchtower. Really not a lot of creep up this left-hand side after he cleaned it out initially. And he dives in for a couple of Ravagers. Gets one. Doesn't target the other. Yeah, this left-hand side creep spread is really weak, so this base on the bottom side is very exposed. As TY holds a few units in the middle of the map as well. He'll have to just pick a direction and see which way he wants to go to clean out even more creep spread. And he'll pick the left-hand side. So again, just trying to disconnect a lot of the creep. There's still an active tumor pushing forwards up here. But obviously, he will have to work backwards or get another creep tumor here to start replacing it a bit. If these Marines still around, they get the Queen, which comes forward to build creep on the bottom left. So, TY playing a pretty good game when it comes to creep denial. And as soon as maxed out, he goes straight into Hive and Spire at the same time. And we actually see Liberators already starting to come on out from TY, so a few Corruptors might not go amiss from that Spire. As TY about to max out himself, and I mean, this is just kind of the 2-2 timing, but it's going to be going up against a maxed out Zerg. As those Marines load into medevacs and pushing the right-hand side, a few creep tumors already starting to drop down. First tank sieged up in the center. There goes the couple of the creep tumors here getting picked away. 2 more tanks sieging. Banes don't have Bane speed, so the Banes that are morphing are not immediately going to be super effective, especially if the tanks here to try and cover. Let's see what happens. I mean, TY is caught a bit on creep here. He does get a few of the Marines out the top side as units come in from the left as well, so there's going to be flanking pincer maneuver that's going to allow soO to clean this up. Those tanks are all going to drop down here. End of the Liberator sieging up. Marines coming in from the top side, and that is going to be a cleanup here. Those extra couple of tanks dropping down now. TY is going to be able to just about hold on, but soO with the cleanup, I mean, it's a lot of tanks you lose at TY, and that's not an easy count to replace. He still has 4 of them because he'll try and set up into a similar position. There's a little bit of creep missing in this spot, which could help if the Banes try and come in, but now there's no Bane speed. Now there is Bane speed. Those Banes are going to be harder to deal with anyways. TY 4th base building, back at home. Like I said, those Vipers on the way against the siege tanks absolutely going to be a useful tool to have. One of the priorities once you hit that hive tech. It'll make your life a lot easier here, as you see. Yeah, just the Ravagers taking some more damage, the Roach taking some more damage, and well, still some more Banes going down too. On the top side, a lot of Lings going to counterattack. That Planetary Fort was maybe in some trouble. And this tank line, this position is so difficult to deal with. It's a shame that this Planetary wasn't ready, because it was very close to maybe making it work, because the SCVs had to run away already. They're actually struggling to get a surround to repair, but they're starting to get there. Meanwhile, the Marines pressing forwards. Has to pull back towards the tanks. It's just so many siege tanks, though. This base will hold. Loses 12 SCVs, but in the end, was able to find enough on it to get the repairs off. Vipers, really, they're out. They're just not coming into the fight. So the Vipers just aren't here doing anything that they should be doing, right? I mean, there's 2 of them. Where are they? First one here. Okay, they were both in the main base. They were just getting energy, but it feels like they've been out for a while, and one of them had energy and was just sitting back. Transfusion on this base, which is taking a lot of shots over time as TY is still pushing forwards. The Overseer picked off. The Hatchery taking some damage. The Banes, well, starting to roll in to connect a little bit. A Roach or 2 going down. In the end, he kills the Hatchery. I mean, what an attempt this has been to kill that off. He's been pushing this position for a long time, and now soO from one direction pressing forward here. These tanks are going to have a great time, but well, finally the Vipers show up with the blinding clouds. Doesn't kill many of the tanks though, which means they're still in position, they're still around. And now obviously the Vipers have to go back, get some energy once again. And TY is not giving this spot up. He's about to hit 3-3 upgrades. There's no Banelings currently ready apart from a couple. I mean, 2 Banelings isn't really scary. So TY takes the chance to come forwards, pick off a few of those Ravagers again. Still just consistent with this push, just rallying across to it at the moment. There's no counterattacks or anything going on from soO to try and just retake pressure across the map. And if you get across the map, apply a bit more pressure or something, you could maybe do great things, but currently that's just not happening. There's another Baneling or 2 again being picked away at. Medivacs loading up a few more Marines, and the army of TY is still all the way down to the bottom side, trying to see what can be done. Parasite Bomb lands into the Medivacs there, and there's one of the Medivacs, both the Medivacs splitting away. I learned yesterday, I think I already knew yesterday, Parasite Bomb doesn't do friendly fire. I just got caught up in a moment when I didn't see some Marines and it looked like a Parasite Bomb was killing a Viper. It was an interesting moment in my life. Got called out for it on YouTube and on our StarCraft almost immediately. It was brilliant. So yeah, those Medivacs just kind of gave themselves up there as, man, TY has tanks. I'm going to click through some of these tanks. 24 kills on this one in the back. 24 on 18 on these 2. 25 on this one over here. They've just been sat there for an eternity, dishing out the damage. And here we go. Roach Ravager pressing forwards. Corrosive Bile. So goodbye to one of the Liberators. Overlord taking some hits. And still that Roach Ravager pressing forwards. There's a few things going from the left-hand side. They're going to start hitting this mineral line, so SCVs are dropping. Marines stimming over, and again, other Marines coming in. Picks off the Viper already. Picks off the 2 of them. I mean, that obviously means that the tanks just have a much better time, right? However, not a lot to protect the tanks. Can they protect themselves? So far, it would seem so, because the fire damage they're putting out, it's just insane. Suddenly, a 70 supply difference opens up, and that's TY with plenty to work with. He's also dropped this base over here. He's dealing damage. soO types out GG to give TY game 1 of the best of 3. in the bottom left-hand side, able to siege tank his way into a victory in game number 1. Our red Terran player from Triumphant Song Gaming is TY. In the top right, our blue Zerg from the Afrika Freak soO. Down a map as we get ready to start this up. Second game of the series. Again, as mentioned, Zest waiting in the next round for whoever wins here. That's a tough one. Zest's been playing well lately. His PvZ feels very inconsistent. His PvT feels good until he gets to late game, and then he seems to struggle to close games out even when he has an advantage. Anyways, that's a discussion for another time. I would give the edge over either of these guys if they advance to beat Zest. I think TY beats Zest more comfortably, but maybe soO. I think soO still does it, but I think it's a bit closer, maybe more 60-40, where I'd say TY is like 70-30 advantage, in my personal opinion. Pull first from soO, so already we could see some aggression this game. The Extractor will follow the hatchery. 4 links to start then, and of course the main thing you're looking at here is the possibility of a roach roaring early in the game. Early roaches obviously mean that you can get across the map very quickly, put on a lot of pressure, and it's one of the things that Terrans have struggled with lately. I mean, we saw in some of the earlier matches today some Terrans really kind of having those issues. Maru against Scarlet, for example. So it's always a possibility, and it's always one of the things you want to start scouting for as a Terran. When you know it's pool first, you'll generally keep the Reaper at home to deal with the initial Zerglings, yes, but then you'll generally at some stage say, right, Reaper has to go across the map right now. It has to go and see what is the follow-up. Are you building roaches? Are you just going to take a third base? What's the plan? As Reaper comes into the middle, sees those 2 links that turned around for the SCV, so we'll go for one of the kills right away. Gets them both low, and then we'll turn back around. I guess he's built a Marine? Yeah, he's got a Marine, so he's okay to fight those couple of lings, and SCVs will turn to fight too, with the one that's returned from scouting, plus the one on the CC. It's actually a really nice, clean defense from TY, so you can keep the Reaper across the map, and again, just that Marine after the Reaper, it's just, this is exactly why you build it, for scenarios like this. It's going to keep you very safe, and look at that bunker from TY. And why? Because he's afraid of the roach attack. You know, if you're not going to be able to scout it because, you know, Queen is zoning your Reaper well, just prepare for it blindly. You know, for the cost of the bunker, now you are safe. But of course, here if soO doesn't go for the roach attack, which he isn't, he's going into link speed and he's pulled out of gas, and he's just going to start up a third hatchery, then the bunker isn't needed. So for TY, the real scout here would be to get across and see that third hatch in 3 minutes. And in that case, there is no way this can be a roach attack. Not super early anyways. He might keep the bunker anyways, but it is nice for him to know that, because then he maybe doesn't go Banshee opening, which is still a possibility for him here. Starport about to finish. There's the Hellion to scout the third hatch, so now he knows the timing on this, and just the one Hellion to pokes in. Starport will go to the tech lab. It looks like a Banshee. Doesn't start the fusion core immediately, so Cloak Banshee going to be the opening. If he wants to play Bio here, Cloak Banshee is a bit easier to transition into Bio with, although some players have played like a Hyperfight Rodas mech style too. It's still definitely not the preferred method compared to the Battlecruiser mech, but it is a possibility, it is an option. As the Hellion joins up, and again, the little bit of damage already being done. Those Zerglings chased away around the top side of the map. Just 2 more Extractors on the way in here, so getting those Extractors up and running as well, and Reaper is going to be able to chase the Lings out through the middle. Marines actually going to get an overload kill, which is nice. The Barracks just flying forward, saying, well, you know, I'm not doing much else right now. Hellion and Banshee production is just kind of my jam for a little while. And soO's response, well, they're on the way. No Spore Crawl in a base, though, and that's always bad for Banshee. You need a Spore Crawl. It just helps so much to zone the Banshees out. Because there's so many scenarios where the Banshees just show up and they find those little corners, those little positions where your Overseer's out of position or whatever else. So yeah, just making sure you have a Spore per base for Banshees is really ideal. And the thing is as well, you know, if this was BCs too, because you're pretty blind here as soO, if it's BCs, you need the Spore Crawlers as well, so Spores make sense. And surely here soO is probably going to figure out what this is. First Banshee flies into the main, cloaks up, and again just tries to find some of those positions where it can sit behind mineral lines and get some drone kills. I mean, this is 3 workers already, make that 4. As he gets away, very little damage taken, and the only issue here is maybe trying to get out of this position without taking too much more damage on the Banshee. Obviously, if you can keep this Banshee alive and join two Banshees up together, we all know how good that can be with the ability to one-shot the workers, but looks like that Banshee's taking too much damage for that. Is TY. He feels bad for killing too many drones, so he's going to send some SCVs. He really needs to fix that rallying, actually. And he will. But unfortunately, the Lings already have Ling speed, so they're going to come through, and that's 4 workers killed, and that's just a big mistake from TY. That just gives up a lot of the advantage he created from the Banshee kills. So that's a bit of a shame. That's one of those just little micro errors, something going on that's just very, very costly that you can't really afford, right? I mean, you want to take every advantage you can get, and again, that just gives up your advantage. Roach speed just over halfway done there from soO. We'll have the Banshee picking away at another drone or so. 2 more engineering bays on the way down from TY in the back of the main base, and those Hellions still position themselves off over to the right. First Banshee go down, no, it's just being camped by an Overseer, which is why I can't see it on the mini-map, so keeping an eye out for that as the Overseer here helping to push this Banshee away. Very low HP though, so I'll have to be careful about trying to pick a way out of this. Might just leave those Banshees back there for a while, just wait for them to be forgotten about, maybe then try and escape them out or do something a little bit further. I think right now you're not realistically going to do anything extra though. Those Hellions heading up to the top side. TY coming around and looking to maybe get rid of some of this group spread initially. Again, the Spire from soO will be finishing soon, and extra Overlords coming up. The Evo Chambers on the front of the 3rd. There's the 4th hatchery on the bottom right-hand side. All of that looking good at the moment as those Hellions coming around the bottom, and Roach is going to turn and jump onto the Hellions, so already the first one picked off. +1 melee, +1 missiles on the way up. Spire finishes up in the 3rd base also. And again, just combat shields on its way out. The armory finishing behind the 3rd base. So far, so good. As you do have TY is going to make his way over and across. As 1-1 and combat shields finishes, it's pretty aggressive timing. The changelings will swap the tail end of this army. So soO just able to pick up on where this is going. No Bane Nest yet, by the way, from soO. He's gone straight to 82 drones. I'm a little worried for him, because he's down on army supply playing a Roach Ravager style. And you know what they say, Roaches inflate your supplies, so let's see what happens. Those tanks sieging up. I mean, this 4th base has to be cancelled. This doesn't get saved in any way, shape, or form. Lings run in. There's Hellbats, dives in for the Queens here, and we'll get one of them. Lifts up the Marines and brings them back to the tanks, and it's a really successful first push. It's also the fact it's 1-1 against no upgrades at the moment, so also a massive helping hand. Lings to counterattack, boom units, and a wall off. As the tanks still just staying there. I mean, it's just soO pressing a little bit too far forwards, testing the waters and finding out they're pretty hot right now. Needs to wait a little while, so not allowed the 4th base, and as the Hive starts, I mean, it's kind of tough though, right? Again, you're missing the upgrades still. The Carapace upgrade's really far away, so you're going to be behind on that throughout the entire game, and that means you're always going to be taking a lot of damage. And for going up to 80 workers to then not have a 4th base to use those 80 workers, that's obviously a big issue. A big issue, as we do see Marines simming forwards, a couple of Crypt Tumors getting picked off. Watermine shot goes off, a couple of Roaches getting picked away. I mean, these Ravagers just weren't left in good enough numbers, so it's a misplay by soO. Meanwhile, Marines make a play forwards as well, just to try and see what they can gather. He's going to kill this 4th base. Again, a misplay by soO. Just didn't split his army well enough there, pulled too many units back. And TY is starting to just kick it up a gear. I mean, look at the resources lost already. 2,000 advantage. 9.5 minutes in the game when not much happened early. soO losing plenty, and again, being kept at 3 bases is one of the bigger issues as well. Just so many drones that just aren't really living up to their full potential. But what can you do if you can't hold a 4th base? You can't hold a fourth base. And that's why you maybe don't build 80 drones before you have the 4th base up and running. Because if you made a few more units, maybe you hold that 4th base, then you get to 80 drones. So obviously, again, just so you're in a bit of a tough spot right now. You're going to see 3 medevacs. I mean, this is down the bottom side of the map, so it looks like it's just going to join up with this over here. The medevacs from the top side have backed away, so soO will go fully fledged in towards the top of the map. Both of these 12 o'clock bases are going to be his next targets for expansions. I mean, this is where TY starts pushing up. Obviously, soO just leaves the majority of his army to the upper left now, because he knows that, again, both the bases he really wants to keep alive are out over here. TY could move up, set up siege tanks here, and maybe make a push towards that base. Has to be careful of the banelings, though, as, well, Widowmines do have drilling close, so they will go off, and a couple of connections are alright, man. The tanks are going to kill so much, and off of creep, this is just a very one-sided fight, but again, at one point, you just have to fight this as soO. You have to sort of stop this army from just advancing around, and I don't blame the guy for trying, but obviously, again, you can see it's just not working out. Now there's an army pushing the top. Banelings aren't ready to defend this at all, so you've got to wait to try and morph some Banelings in. You're losing your creep here, which means future pushes are going to be very powerful in this position. And TY gives soO a little bit of respect and gives him some space. Doesn't go diving in. He sees those Banelings go off now. There is a few over here, but the splits are pretty good. The Widowmines help to shut down a couple of the initial numbers. And at this point, you just rally up to this position as TY and you just go, go, and go. You just don't let it stop. Even starting his 3-3 upgrades, which would be one nice thing. He definitely has the money to do it, and just would have kept that upgrade lead a little bit further ahead, but I'm not sure if he would, I'm not sure if this game's going to go on long enough for 3-3 to even finish if he started it. A couple more Banelings going down once again here, a few more corrosive files dropping. As those Ravagers pull back in towards the central position. A few of those Corruptors taking damage once again. We're going to be having Leaners and Banes pressing through Marines. Trying to fight this, a couple extra Banes going down, and well, Corruptors not even picking up the medevacs very quickly, so there's a lot more healing on this army than there really should be, based on the fact that you can build into Corruptors. The Ravager count is down in the gutter as well, which means that cleaning up the tanks is just going to get more and more difficult. I mean, look at the unit tab here. 3 Ravagers and, well, Zerglings and Corruptors. 27 Banelings morphing, which, okay, the 27 Banelings are scary, credit where it's due, but is it enough on their own? Because there's barely any Lings along with it. It's a tough spot. And you look at TY, just building a Ghost Academy as well. 5 bases all around the map. And again, just trying to let these Widowmines do a little bit of initial damage. Queen will eat one of them there. And the full energy Queen gets picked off pretty quickly. Now the Widowmines will go off on a couple of Lings in the front. Now some of the Banes going down. Again, you kite off of creep here. You build up another Widowmine with that drilling claws. It burrows real fast, and there's just not quite enough Banelings from soO to properly keep on connecting. Yeah, TY, the supplies are getting kind of close, but also TY's going into 3-3 upgrades. And soO's army is still just stuck. Lingbane Ravager desperately trying to hold on, desperately trying to make something of this game too. You've played a long qualifier here. The last thing you want is for this to kind of fall apart now, when you're so close. As you see, Corruptor's heading down the bottom. We're going to start course exploring the planetary fortress. That's a nice little something, but these Marines underneath, and they're going to get rid of 2 of the Corruptors. Third one gets very low. Well, his Hive's up, so 3-3 is on the way from our Zerg player, and yeah, it's something. I'm just trying to be a little bit positive here. Some Widowmines don't really do much. I mean, that's nicely dealt with. It kind of needed to be, all things considered. The thing is, I mean, TY's about to get this base up. He's going to take this base here. And then you're just, what, sitting on like a 6-base Terran? soO has got the top side bases up. So those are really his saviors right now. His lifelines that have kept him going. I love these tanks. They were left in the bottom for so long, and now they're just like showing up and taking a siege. And realistically, this planetary fortress probably, this hatchery probably goes down. Well, the Marines showing up as well will obviously help with that too. Maybe if you drop the tanks on top of the hatchery, you can make it into a makeshift planetary. Feels like TY has a big advantage, and it's just, finding the right way to close the game out. I mean, he's maxed out with the bank now, so that should be the start of something at least, as he's going to press in the top side. A few bio units already hitting this basement. The high ground position, it's going to be that little bit more difficult for soO to break up there and fight this army, so maybe this is what TY does, forcing soO into the worst spots to fight in. There's obviously no creep up here either, so The Banes, again, not quite doing as much as they'd maybe like to. He picks off the hatchery, which is obviously big. He has got reinforcements through the center, just needs to be a bit careful with those because there's a lot of Lings that are catching those reinforcements. Now the Lings, once it gets to kind of higher numbers of bio units, alone those Lings do nothing, but catching reinforcements, probably one of the best case scenarios for soO right now, who 15.5 minutes in. Credit where it's due, has really hung on in here. The drone kind of being able to finally mine from these two bases on the top has allowed him to extend extend his lifeline in this game just ever so slightly. As you do see this hatchery dropping down. A few more as Marines getting picked off, so still just keeping that base on the bottom from coming up. I mean, this is already a planetary though. Top left base, well, blocked by a Zergling, but obviously TY have the intentions of taking that as soon as possible. And the maxed out TY hasn't really teched up. Doesn't need to because the Zerg hasn't teched up either. So as long as the game goes on like this, TY is trading better, he's mining more. Eventually he will make this work. You don't need tech units against Lingbane Ravager. If anything, Milk and Ghost right here just costs you a little bit too much and doesn't really do enough. Say, you know what? soO's able to deny a base, so he'll deny a base. Meanwhile, though, TY is already setting up the top left, and these drones are completely unprotected long-distance mining, so that could be deadly. soO fixes it pretty quick, but maybe this hatchery goes down again. It's going to already be half-half here, so I wouldn't mind looking to burrow up, or he's just going to lift it into the medevac and take it away. He's going to jump into the main base, meanwhile pushing the bottom right. This base is just not long for the world. How many times has this bottom right base died in this game? 4, 5? It's really just not meant to be. A couple of Vipers popping out, but again, units that seem very late to the party. 17 minutes in, 400 Lings have died, and you're just now getting your first Vipers out. Well, I mean, you didn't really have a chance to build them before. You've been desperately trying to survive. TY gave you a bit of room, sure. Now you can get them up, but again, how far behind already are you? 50 supply at the moment. As you will see, the bio reinforcements here are still streaming in. And that's going to be TY able to take game number 2 of the series over soO, and TY will set up a best of 5 against Zest to see who qualifies to IEM Katowice.